In 1943, Frank Piasecki and Harold Venzi invented the PV-2 helicopter, which became the second successful helicopter to fly in the US. In 1946, the company became Piasecki Helicopter Corporation, which in turn became Vertol Aircraft Corporation when Piasecki stepped down as chairman in 1955. By March 7, 1945, the company had created the PV-3, the largest helicopter in the world at the time and first successful use of the tandem rotor design. During the late 1940s, a few other designs improved on the tandem rotor concept, such as the HUP-2 and 3, paving the way for a most remarkable airframe. A helicopter that has a proven record of being crucial in the field, with few, if any, alternatives capable of fulfilling the same role. From the battlefields of Vietnam to today's conflicts, this multi-role vertical lift platform serves more than 20 countries and just keeps getting better. The origins of the Chinook dates back to the 1950s. Following the Korean War and the success of the helicopter, aircraft designer Vertol had committed to designing a tandem rotor aircraft capable of fulfilling multiple roles, including heavy lift. In 1956, the US Army announced its plans to hold helicopter design competitions, seeking to expand and modernize its fleet of rotary wing aircraft. One such competition would be held to find a replacement for the Sikorsky CH-37, which at the time was the primary heavy-lift helicopter used by the Army. The piston-powered Sikorsky was good, but following trials of newer helicopter designs, including the Bell UH-1 Huey, it was clear that turbine-powered helicopters were the future. Thus, the competition entailed designing a heavy-lift helicopter which integrated a turbine engine. By 1958, the Army had noticed potential in Vertol's design, which was now known as V-107 or YHC-1A, and awarded a contract to produce several prototypes. However, there was dispute within the Army over the role the helicopter should be designed for. Some believed it should be a troop transport, like the earlier tandem rotor Piasecki H-21, while others believed it should be larger, powerful enough to supersede the Sikorsky CH-37. These disputes resulted in several decisions. Firstly, the Vertol 107 would not be scrapped, but instead be improved to lean towards the role of medium-lift helicopter, while the job of troop transport would be reallocated to Bell Helicopter, who maintained that their UH-1 Huey would fulfill that role. The improved Vertol 107 design would be designated CH-46 Sea Knight and was given to the Marines. For the Army, however, things still needed improvement. A request was sent to Vertol for an even larger and more powerful V-107, which would be designated HC-1B, powered by two Lycoming T-55 turbines producing over 2,000 horsepower each and utilizing two counter-rotating rotors, which evened out the torque. The aircraft was able to produce massive amounts of lift. Not only that, but a twin-engine design such as this meant that if one engine failed, the other could take over driving both propellers. Then, on September 21, 1961, the first HC-1B would take to the air. These initial tests proved successful. Thus, the US Army designated the aircraft as CH-47A, otherwise known as the Chinook. First entering limited use in 1962, the Chinook would finally enter large-scale service in 1965, being sent to Vietnam in the role of medium transport. Initially, skepticism surrounded the aircraft. However, as time passed, pilots and crew in Vietnam began to realize the true utility of the Chinook. Its ability to lift massive amounts of equipment, including artillery, was unmatched in other modern helicopters such as the Huey. Not only that, but it proved highly capable in rescuing downed aircraft, including many Hueys. In fact, by the end of the Vietnam War, the Chinook had rescued roughly 12,000 downed aircraft, a monumental achievement. The CH-47B model arrived in 1968. The Bravo model featured several improvements, among them being an improved transmission and fuselage. Previously, in the Alpha model, pilots in Vietnam had noticed that the high temperature and its subsequent effect on air density had a substantial effect on the Chinook's lift capacity, in some cases producing a 30% reduction in power. This fluctuation, modulated by humidity, was further exacerbated by a dangerous issue in which the transmission would fail to sustain the turbines when running at full power. The Bravo model was thus designed as an interim aircraft whilst the massively improved Charlie model was still under development. The Bravo featured a slightly improved engine, the T55L7C, which produced 2,800 horsepower, while also featuring mounting points for M60 machine guns on both side doors and on the rear ramp. The Charlie model would arrive shortly after the Bravo. Featuring an improved engine and better transmission, the C model sought to overcome all major problems found in the original Alpha variant. This model also sought to improve the gross weight limitations of the previous variants. To achieve this, certain Charlie models were fitted with the T55L11 engine, capable of producing 3,700 horsepower, while others retained the L7C engine. The more powerful L11 engine was initially found to be unreliable, thus resulting in a temporary rollback to the L7C engine, whilst further improvements were made. Despite this, the Charlie model would see wide use in the Vietnam War from the time of its introduction. One of the most interesting Chinook variants emerged in 1965 and were later sent to Vietnam. These were the ACH-47A gunships. 4 were produced, with 3 being lost. These aircraft were developed for test and evaluation in Vietnam. Further Chinook gunship conversions were halted following this, since all available aircraft were needed in their respective transport roles, and evidently the gunship design was not necessary. These aircraft were armed with a 40mm grenade launcher, 2 70mm rocket pods, 2 M24 cannons, and 5 machine guns, either M60s or M2 Brownings. Primarily created by converting older models, particularly the Charlie variant, although A and B models were also used, the Delta is closer to what we would now consider the modern Chinook. It would feature new and improved engines, the T55GA714A, which both improved speed and lift capability. It also saw the implementation of a triple-hook cargo load system. This was an important upgrade. Earlier models of the Chinook, featuring single-hook systems, had to fly far slower while carrying cargo, as the load was prone to spin due to a single point of stabilization. Thus, a triple-hook system could prevent cargo spin and allow for easier transport of artillery, vehicles, and other heavy loads. The Delta was also the first Chinook to see the proper adoption of a GPS system for navigation, which was quickly becoming a necessity for modern aircraft. The success of the Delta variant in modernizing the Chinook led to the development of the MH-47D. This helicopter, which was designed by upgrading older Alpha and Charlie models, was designed specifically for Special Forces use. Following the success of the MH-47D, a newer model, the MH-47E, was designed as a replacement. It would still be converted from Charlie model aircraft, but would possess further small upgrades, many of which were found in the latest base model CH-47D. In keeping with its goal of serving Special Forces, the MH-47 features a terrain-following radar, modified avionics, and an increased fuel capacity for longer missions. From the Delta model came the CH-47F, or Foxtrot, the latest of the base model Chinooks, currently serving in an operational capacity. Developed from the Delta model, the Foxtrot features several new upgrades. As per usual, the primary improvement is the implementation of newer engines, which are both more powerful and have better serviceability. Additionally, the aircraft features a modernized avionics system integrated with the Common Avionics Architecture System. One of the main selling points of the Foxtrot model is its focus on improving service life while decreasing the amount of maintenance needed to keep the helicopter airworthy. This is important, as the Chinook up to this point had always been a maintenance-heavy aircraft. Such aims also played into the decision to redesign certain elements of the aircraft to reduce vibration. However, according to XRAAF pilots we have spoken to, newer Delta and Foxtrot Chinooks can vibrate more than the Charlie model in fast-forward flight. When pushed to higher speed flight, the new asymmetric rotor blades cause the Delta or Foxtrot to vibrate more violently than the older Charlie model would at the same speed. This is obviously one of the trade-offs for having these improved asymmetric rotor blades for better hover and lift, at the expense of smooth high-speed forward flight. Sub-variants of the Foxtrot have now also been designed. A Block 2 variant began entering service in 2020 and featured further improvements, including improved payload capabilities, further improved rotor blades, a larger fuel capacity, more powerful engines, and improved avionics systems aimed at increasing efficiency. And now, there are plans for a Block 3 variant sometime in the coming years. This would once again seek to improve lift capabilities, serviceability, and reliability. Current plans include a larger fuselage, as well as designing a completely new engine, transmission, and drive shaft. Alongside the latest Foxtrot variant is the MH-47G, the most modern Chinook variant aimed at Special Forces use. Created by upgrading existing Special Forces MH-47 Delta and Echo variants, the MH-47G features the same upgrades found in the newer CH-47F model, alongside other smaller features such as a specialized avionics system. As it stands, a Block 2 variant of the MH-47G is currently being developed, which further modernizes the Chinook with even better avionics systems, terrain following radar, and other such improvements, and this will likely remain in service for many years once fully implemented. What is truly remarkable about the Chinook is its relatively unchanged airframe, which has remained basically the same except for upgrades in avionics and other onboard systems. This is rather rare in the evolution of aircraft. For example, the airframes of fighter aircraft quickly show their age as air-to-air technology and principles change. Over the past 60 years, jet design has evolved dramatically to the stealth fighter profiles we see today. In contrast, the Chinook retains its core features from 60 years ago and yet still remains contemporary as a medium to heavy lift helicopter. A timeless airframe such as the Chinook is rare indeed. Other examples of timeless designs would include the C-130 Hercules, C-47 Dakota, Bell UH-1 Iroquois, the Boeing 707, and to some extent the B-52 Stratofortress. Today, the Chinook has become a necessity in the field, with capability unmatched by other helicopters. The MH-47G Block 2 will remain in service as a Special Forces helicopter for a long time to come, and the yet-to-be-implemented CH-47F Block 3 will certainly future-proof the Chinook for many more years of service. As it stands, the Chinook will continue to serve until sometime beyond 2060, which will make the design over 100 years old.